With Walmart, Amazon, and other big retailers announcing permanent store closures, how concerned should we be about this economy? CJ, start us off.
I feel like it's really hard to say at the moment. I think there's cause for concern. I just don't know that we know how concerned to be yet. And what I mean by that is we've seen explosive growth in the last 3 to 5 years in terms of the economy, in terms of consumer spending, retail stores, things of that nature. And I think a lot of that's resetting. I think a lot of that growth, or in terms of stores and things like that, are starting to reset, and that could be a good, could be a bad thing. So I don't have a full opinion. I think as far as is it bad right now, I think that it is. I don't think the data shows that it is. But as with everything, I think we're kind of in the middle road of this economic cycle at the moment, and I think that there's been so many variables. Everybody's having a hard time landing the plane on exactly where this thing is going to go.
All right, Steve, what are your thoughts on this one? I know this is a question that you definitely wanted to dive in on.
Well, it's not that so much I want to dive in on it. Just I think it's a big cause for concern. I think that credit card debt. It is. I think just people's behavior. They're not getting used to how things have changed. Right. Like we had big changes, and they're not ready to reset their behavior. Stores closing. I mean, I think this is where the Feds have been wanting to basically put a giant freeze on the economy, cause a recession, force a recession, so that we can slow down demand, and it's happening. And this is what we've talked about on the show for months now. Is like they keep raising the rate. They could just pause and just see what happens. And so now this is the beginning of seeing the effect of raising the rates. Now we got maybe 6 or 7 more rates to have it kind of play through the cycle and see what actually happens in 2024. So I think this is the beginning of us actually feeling the pain, the country suffering like the Fed wants. And I think this is where I say 2023, I think it's going to be just fine for real estate, but I am concerned about 2024.
Okay. Looking a little into the future there. I like it. All right. Eric, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm anxious to hear Steve explain to us how those stores will open up shortly in the metaverse. So stay tuned. I'm sure when we chop it up here at the break, he'll tell us all about that. Literally a year ago, he told me it was the next thing. He was packing up shop, and he was going to trade everything in for a few NFTs and move to the metaverse, and it was going to change his life. Craziest thing I've ever heard, but turns out it didn't work out. Who would have thought? I think when you look at the stuff like credit card debt and Walmart's and stores closing, when you look at any isolated piece of information, it's easy to get distracted. We've seen a lot change with like online retail. We've seen a ton change with brick and mortar offices. We've seen a ton change with the way people buy and sell products. Right? Like you don't even walk into Walmart anymore to buy a Sony PlayStation. You're probably going to buy it on the secondary market from someone that's flipping it. Like literally anything that has any type of demand today is being flipped. So it could be an isolated piece of information that we blow out of proportion and say it's the economy and all this other stuff. I'd want to take a step back and see how it fits into the greater context of what's going on. And I would say anytime a door closes, another one opens. Certainly there's an opportunity that's created as a result of these big box retailers closing down stores. It's going to push that opportunity, that commerce, that money somewhere else. And the goal should be to figure out not why it happened, but where the new opportunity is.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably in the metaverse. Leon, what are your thoughts on this one?
Concern, of course. I mean, this is different from what we've seen over the last 3 years, but guys, this is recalibration. We were living in an unrealistic world for the last 3 years. We thought that COVID was going to kind of level things out, and it actually was rocket fuel to the economy, as well as on the real estate side. So, I would proceed with caution. We have this conversation quite often when it comes to luxury builders and luxury flippers. Mid-tier builders, those type of things when it comes to the real estate world. I would definitely proceed with caution, but it's recalibration. We've had an unbelievable run, and it continues. It continued all the way into last year. So I would just proceed with caution. CJ has said this before. There are 3 things that people have to have: food, water, and shelter. We happen to be in the shelter business. To Eric's point, find that lane that fits your business best, proceed with caution, and focus on growing that particular lane that makes sense. There's always a solution when there's a problem.